This is 210 Local Music Podcast. You're listening to episode number 29.
210 Local Music.
This podcast episode is brought to you in part by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day trial at www.210localmusic.com/audible. We get a nice little bonus if you do, and you can cancel at any time. There are over 150,000 titles for you to choose from for your iPad, Kindle, Android, or MP3 player.
And now, on with the show.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. This is episode number 29 of the 210 Local Music Podcast. Like I said in previous episodes, we are looking to rebrand. If you have any suggestions for what we should rebrand to, let us know. You can email us at 210localmusic@gmail.com or email me directly at mario@210localmusic.com. Right now I'm playing around with the idea of just 210 Local Media, which the 210 and local might be a little repetitive. However, there has been some confusion over what local means with regards to us. We've had some replies from bands that were wanting to get interviewed or played on the podcast, and they were in completely different states, which is awesome. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate that. To me, it's a great thing that y'all are reaching out. As far as right now, it's just a San Antonio podcast, so we are just limiting it to local talent. This episode, I've got a little bit of music for you. Like I said before, it's an instrumental episode featuring a couple of bands that have some things coming up. As a matter of fact, if you're listening to this the day this comes out on Thursday, then last night, Donella Drive just played HiTones with Migrant, Kids, and Flower Jesus. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to the show. I'm still not 100% yet as far as feeling better. My asthma's been killing me, and then I got a stomach bug, and it's just been a mess of the last month. It's been really difficult. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it out. Hopefully that changes soon, and I can start making it out to some more shows, or at the very least, my future co-host who's coming on soon will be able to do some stuff like that as well. Maybe report live from some of the events. We'll see what we can manage coming up. Also on the episode is the Phantomatics, who do have something coming up on January 31st at the Thirsty Camel Bar and Lounge. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that's right next to the 502 bar over by Embassy Oaks Theater. For those of you that came out for the 210 Toys for Tots event, it's pretty much just a couple of doors down. So you'll definitely want to check out the Phantomatics. And for those of you who aren't too familiar with the Phantomatics or Donella Drive, Phantomatics is very surf guitar driven, with a B-movie kind of attitude about them. And Donella Drive is now, I think they're 4-piece, looking for a 5th, looking for a vocalist, I think, still, or getting a vocalist caught up with everything. And they're hard to put a finger on. I would just say that they rock. I mean, they create a full wall of sound. I've gotten to see them in concert, and that was an amazing experience. Great guys. I can't wait to see the Phantomatics, though. I'm hoping to catch them on the 31st at the Thirsty Camel Bar and Lounge. Now, we are working also on getting an interview with the Black Market Club, who is going to be starting their mini Texas tour with Luxley, and that's happening next Wednesday at the Limelight here in San Antonio, then Thursday at the Red Eye Fly in Austin, Friday at the Revolution Cafe at College Station, and then finishing it off on Saturday at Mango's Cafe in Houston. Now, I did want to mention that here and now, just in case I don't get the episode published with them until Thursday, which would suck. If I'm able to get the interview done, hopefully this weekend, I can go ahead and throw it out on Tuesday maybe or Monday, and then we'll skip Thursday's episode and have that be Mondays. All the links for these events and the bands will be in our show notes, or can be found on our website at 210lm.com. One more thing before we get to the music, I just want to give a special shout out to our overseas listeners, starting with Senegal in West Africa for downloading our show 118 times, which is, to me, pretty awesome. I didn't even know where Senegal was. I had to look it up. Now, included in our top list are also Bolivia, China, Canada, the Philippines, Switzerland, the UK, France, and Japan. Now, all of them have downloaded the show more times than there have been episodes in the podcast. So to me, that's really awesome. I'm so glad that we have that kind of support. I'm glad we have local support, but it's really awesome to see people that are in completely different countries checking us out. If you're in one of those countries, call our Google voicemail line at 1-210-802-1197. Let us know how you found us, what you like about the show, which show was your favorite, and out of curiosity, I'm thinking maybe we have some military that are located overseas in these areas. Let me know if that's true, and we'll give you guys some more shout-outs and stuff, and we'll play the voicemail that you send us online on the next episode, hopefully. Within the U.S., however, our top states outside of Texas that our listeners come from are California, Wisconsin, Virginia, Washington, and New York. Same thing goes for you guys as well. Give us a call, 210-802-1197, and just say hey. Now for this week's music segment, I'm happy to bring you guys some great instrumental tunes, starting off with the Phantomatics and their album She Left Her Brain at the Drive-In, followed by Donella Drive's Castellations. The Phantomatics She Left Her Brain at the Drive-In starts off with Hearst Surfing, then Go Phantomatics Go, She Left Her Brain at the Drive-In, The Phantomatic Twist, The Good, The Bad, and The Mummy, and Death Waltz in B minor live. For those of you who haven't heard of the Phantomatics, I know they play around town quite a bit. This is probably the best that San Antonio has to offer as far as surf music. Now, this is a learning podcast for me, so if any of you out there are familiar with other surf music that I should check out that's just local in San Antonio or that is based in San Antonio, let me know. With that being said, after that we've got Donella Drive's album Castellations with their first track Rambo, Late Night, and then Minus Marley. Now, for those of you who don't just want instrumental music, I did throw in one extra song by Donella Drive, which is their vocal version of Late Night, which features JoJo, the lead singer from Slow Like Fire. Now, while I haven't seen the Phantomatics live, I have gotten to see Donella Drive, and let me tell you, it was just an amazing experience. I know they're currently either still looking for their lead singer, or I think they've found their lead singer, and they're getting them caught up with learning all of the music and everything. And as a matter of fact, some sad news. Although it was amicable, their lead guitarist, Furman, is no longer with the band. So I don't know if they're looking to eventually get another guitarist or if they've figured a way around needing an additional guitarist. Either way, I wish good luck to Donella Drive as well as Furman. Both groups of people are just amazingly talented for their age. Really amazing guys. Like I said, amazing experience seeing them live. So if you have a chance to see Donella Drive, you got to do it. So without any further ado, here's the tunes.
And now, on with the show.
were killing and eating their victims prompted authorities to examine the bodies of some of the victims. Medical authorities in Cumberland have concluded that in all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they murdered.
is unknown. Too late to rest one last time. Tell me what is mine. See it in your eyes. Take the chance, just one. Stronger than enough to waste no time. All or nothing. Only one and five for eyes with voice so eluding. I never saw it. Tonight we can lay here separate, staring at the sky. And when I move, you breathe in. Close your eyes. See it in your eyes. Take the chance, just one. Stronger than enough to waste no time. All or nothing. You never had it right before. We took time, but lapsing before collapsing, wanting more. As you crawl to me, your eyes betray. I've noticed. See me lucid in this moment. See it in your eyes. Take the chance, just one. Stronger than enough to waste no time. All or nothing.
This podcast episode is brought to you in part by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day trial at www.210localmusic.com/audible. We get a nice little bonus if you do, and you can cancel at any time. There are over 150,000 titles for you to choose from for your iPad, Kindle, Android, or MP3 player.